My name is Meena Desai, and I lead the undergraduate programs for Atlas Skilltech University's School of Management and Entrepreneurship. Today's topic, as part of the Selling and Negotiation module, is going to be on Know Your Customers, something that's very, very important, and also a topic that sets the base on how we can accordingly create strategies and tactics to sell to consumers and customers across the varied brands, products, and services that one has to offer. So let's dive straight in. Let's understand who or what makes a customer. So know your customer, or KYC. Also very important along the KYC means is the buyer personas, and that is what's going to determine the various strategies that a company can put forward as part of the sales. So to understand your and know your customers, it's also very, very important as a starting point to know what makes your customer base. Every product or service will have some sets of consumers and customers who are regular buyers or regular users of the product and service. But of course, every company also needs to keep finding newer markets to service their products and services. For this, you will have to have a deeper understanding of where your customers are, starting from your target audience, which would be based on demographics, race, age, sex, and of course, profiles based on economic and other stratas of society too. Beyond which, you will also need to deep dive into figuring out, are these customers repeat customers or are they one-time customers only? This becomes important because only then can you find out different strategies to apply to service these different markets and look at it from a holistic picture. Before we go into understanding our customers, let's try and understand what are the different types of selling mechanisms that are available to the company. We know one of these is B2C. This really is the direct consumers, which is you and me, where the company or the businesses are selling their products directly to. The next type of selling is B2B. It's also a large base because you're not directly sending or selling to your consumers, but selling your products or services to businesses who will further process or further utilize these services and products to make it available to the end user. Post the pandemic, something that we've seen actively grow is the e-commerce base. E-commerce is conducting commercial transactions over internet, what we know simply put as online shopping. A large base of this is also possible because of Indian markets having access to digital transactions and electronic payments, thereby making it easy for buyers and sellers to interact and engage with each other using platforms such as online shopping portals. Next up, we have what is known as agency sales. Agency sales are intermediaries and they sell or promote the products on behalf of the company themselves. This is a great model, especially when the company wants to reach out to areas which have probably regions which they are not able to directly service. This could also add up to costs for the company if they get into the space of buying and selling in those regions, and therefore intermediaries like agents and agency sales provides a great medium. We also have consultative sales approach, which is more or less looking at personalizing sales and personalizing products and services on the basis of what the consumer needs. We find this as a very, very effective method, especially when you're looking at financial products, be it insurance. Finally, we also have what is known as inside and out sales. Inside sales is basically conducting sales through digital channels, and outside sales is what we know as face-to-face selling or direct selling. These are again very popular means of using sales strategies to get to your consumer. But times have changed. We're also looking at new business models. Popularly for millennials is the drop shipping method. Dropshipping method is again cost effective for the company because you don't necessarily need to keep a storehouse. You only pick up your product from a third party and further process it to sell it to the direct consumer. We also have events and exhibitions. While these can be great brand building exercises, they may not necessarily result in repeat customers, because unless or until the company puts in more brand recall basis the sales that have been provided. Now that we've understood what are some of the selling agencies and selling strategies available to a company, let's now get into knowing the customer by understanding what is buyer personas. Buyer personas is something very, very integral to understanding the customer base and to creating markets as well as servicing those markets. Buyer personas are, simply put, what your prospective customers or prospective buyers are thinking and how can the company address their problems by providing relevant solutions or relevant products and services for them. Buyer persona gives you insights into the buyer's decision-making process. What are their attitudes? Do they make purchases because they need a product to service an immediate need, or are they making that purchase because they are used to a product and they only want to make it a repeat habit? Some of these could also be based on concerns. Probably you have health concerns, you have financial savings concerns, and then you'll see financial companies and banks service products and services accordingly. The entire journey that goes through into driving your prospective customer to choose you as the option over your competitor is what the influencing process is made through the buyer persona. When you look at buyer personas and why they are important, typically buyer personas become important because you're able to determine what is it that compels a buyer to make that final decision. Some of the buyer persona decision-making processes are driven through data. A consumer picks up certain products and services and also repeatedly purchases them. From the seller point of view or from the company point of view, you would want to collect these elements of data points and understand that what is it that drives them to make those decisions. For example, if it is March and it is your financial year ending, you see an overdrive of marketing as well as information sharing with your consumers at large, telling them about financial products which will enable you to pick up those products and get tax-saving benefits. These become data-driven decision points because you do know that there is a large base of customers who are going to pick up an insurance or any other relevant product which gives them tax-saving benefits. The second type of buyer persona decision making is through personalized marketing. Personalized marketing is tailored communication to prospective buyers at every stage in the buying process, just so that they are able to progress from one stage to the other and lead to a conversion. Finally, the third type is a customer experience process. You anticipate what your buyer needs, you anticipate what their concerns and questions may be, and thereby you deliver each one of these with enabling them to build up into the confidence in your capabilities and thereby make a final decision of purchasing your product or service. There are also some benefits of understanding buyer personas. One is, of course, that you get a better understanding of your ideal customer profile. You'll understand what causes them to consider and choose you over your competitor. The second element is understanding the greater market, which means getting a deeper knowledge about the buying decision and allows you to target your activities and your processes using the right media channels and provide content so that every buyer at every stage is building up onto your brand reputation and considers you as a trusted market source. Third, it leads to better lead generation. Every company requires a good amount of leads which they are going to service, and more the leads, more chances of it to convert and thereby lead to more chances of sales. Talking about conversions, buyer persona definitely leads to increased conversions. While you have understood what your buyer looks like, you are also able to create specific strategies which will influence the buyer from every level of the funnel, whether it's top, middle, or bottom, and thereby leading it to the conversion process. You also have a buyer persona understanding that leads to a shorter sales cycle. It is enabling you to overcome certain obstacles or certain challenges which otherwise you would have had no information about and which would probably lead to delay in the decision-making process. And finally, understanding your buyer persona definitely leads to a higher ROI, which basically leads to your prioritization of marketing investments and the increase in their impact on sales. You would now like to know, how do you create a buyer persona? How do you recreate a story around your customer's buyer decision-making process? First, determine what is the buying decision for which you're going to create a buyer persona. Is this decision going to be out of need? Is this decision going to be because you want your consumer or customer to have an achievement status, or is it because it's a regular purchase and a consumption that you want to create on regularity as well as habit? Defining this enables you to create a good effective strategy for sales and marketing, and thereby you're able to create a great candidate, which is your customer. Next up is to define your target market for making this buying decision. Definition of marketing and buying decision involves what is the size of the market, who is your exact target market, and in what manner do you want to create the buying decision and the purchase decision to be regular, high, voluminous, or otherwise. Third, find and recruit recent buyers to understand what the buyer persona is going to be. When you go deeper and interview your customers to understand what led them to make this particular purchase decision, is when you'll be able to clone such buyers and create more personas which will eventually lead them to pick up your product over your competitor. We must also create recordings and create a great element of this interviews, because people enjoy talking about the process that they have gone through while making the purchase decision, and that is when you will be able to identify whether the buying decision was based on a trigger of need, of fear, concerns, or finally what led to the decision-making criteria. Also try and find out certain patterns. You will determine patterns when you talk to more people, and that is what will draw the distinction between a real buyer or a real insight and of course a single buyer who was only picking up your product or service one at a time. And lastly, once you have created and gone through your entire interview process, create headlines, create quotes, create more credibility to give these decisions and give these insights to understand what your buyer persona is all about, and share this input with your marketing and sales team. So, as you underwent today's session, you would have determined and understood that why is it important to identify your customer, identify the target market, identify the correct audience, and thereby identify the marketing channel that needs to be used for them. We also went through what is a buyer persona, and we discussed the different elements that are made up of the buyer persona and how we should create one and use those inputs as well. We also saw the different types of selling and the different types of selling mechanisms that are available to one, and understood it from a larger picture and what kind of strategies we can take in from there. See you in the next session. So, along this module, what we have covered today is understanding different types of sales channels, which is B2B sales, B2C, newer channels like online and drop shipping models, and of course, try to understand what makes a buyer persona, what are some of the strategies that one can use to cover aspects of these different buyer personas.